For those of you who don't know me, my name's Daniel Casalino, and I started a knife company called Blade Box, and today it is worth over $1 million. Here is the story of how I did it. Now, let's start at the beginning, the very beginning. I was always a very energetic kid. I loved creating things, I loved designing, and I knew I wanted to be like my dad one day, and I wanted to own my own company. Now, in school, I was never very good in school. I didn't have good grades, and when it came time for me to make a decision of where are you going to go to college, what are you going to do for your career, I really didn't have a choice, and I knew I wasn't going to college because my grades weren't good enough. So I decided to work for my dad. Now, my dad, ever since I was little, has been an entrepreneur, and he's been very successful in that space. He started a company called Lone Survivalist that sells gear like flashlights, knives, backpacks, camping gear, all that prepper camping stuff. And he did really well, and that company was good. So I was like, I'll just work for that company. So I was like, Dad, can I work for you? My grades aren't good enough to go to college. Initially, he was skeptical because I wasn't good kid in school. I was partying a lot and stuff like that. But he's like, if you get your act together, I'll let you work for me. So I started working for my dad, and I started using some of those skills I had when I was a kid, like designing things, creating things, giving ideas, and I eventually started doing branding, low-level marketing, did some product design and stuff like that for my dad's company. And it was at this point that I started thinking about what are some things I could do and leveraging my dad's already existing customer base with Lone Survivalist. And I thought, what if I did a subscription box, a knife subscription club, where every month there was a new knife that the customers got. And I pitched it to my dad. I was like, what if we created this company that sold a knife every single month, and it was a subscription for all of your Lone Survivalist people? I bet a ton of them would buy. So my dad actually liked the idea, and he was like, go ahead and do it. So I was like, okay. And I knew with this idea, I wanted to make it happen. Me and my dad are very creative, so we have a lot of ideas. Every coffee meeting we have, it's hundreds of ideas, and a lot of them don't happen. But this one, I was like, this is a good idea, and I need to actually implement it and make this happen. So I immediately started designing the knives, and this was actually one of the first knives I created. It's called the Musketeer, and I wanted to make it like a musketeer sword. Now, after I made this musketeer knife, my dad looked at it, and he was actually really impressed. And he's like, let's sit down, because this is actually going to be a real company, not just an idea, and let's write down what we each get. And we'll have a written agreement that we both agree on. So we went to coffee, and we talked about it, and at the time, what I believed it was 25, I was getting 25% of the company. And I was like, okay, I'm finally gonna be an owner of something. I'm so excited. So I made the product packaging, the website, we picked a name, Blade Box, and everything was going really well. I went on to design 12 awesome knives. And it was at this point, we were about a year in, and I hadn't seen a penny yet of money. It was really discouraging because for all the work I put in, I really hadn't seen any money. But the silver lining here was I was still working for Lone Survivalist, and I was still getting paid. And this was very nice of my dad to let me do. Now, a week before we were gonna launch, on July 4th, my dad came to me and he was like, did you know that the contract said you only get 25% of the profits while you're in Lone Survivalist? And this was a body blow to me. It was 1 week before we launched, and I was assuming I was getting 25% of the company. Like I was gonna be on the sheet that had ownership of the company, but it turned out that I wasn't. And this is the first lesson. If you ever start something on your own or partner with someone, just make sure that you read the agreement, you read what you originally signed, because I didn't read it careful enough, and I thought I was betrayed when that really wasn't what happened. I was careless, I didn't read what it said, and I felt like my dad was betraying me, because now it's like, what if 1 week I get fired from Lone Survivalist? Now I own nothing. For the year of work I put in, all of my designs, the logo, everything, the website, and I was just distraught. I thought about leaving the company, leaving Lone Survivalist, quitting on Blade Box, just starting my own company from scratch. But with prayer, talking, getting advice from people, I decided to just stay and stick it out. There was a week left. I put in all this work. I just wanted to see it through until the end, no matter what happened, no matter even if I got fired from Lone Survivalist a week later. So what I did was I just decided to stay. And we shot all the videos. We did this big launch to Lone Survivalist list. Blade Box is coming, the monthly knife subscription. And the first day, we grossed over $100,000. The first day of the launch. And those were repeat customers because they signed up to a subscription. So that meant every month they were going to get billed. Now, over the course of 1 week, the whole entire launch, we made over $170,000. And this set us up to be a $1 million company even the first week that we launched because of the projections and because of how business worked. So this was really good. And this just made me more defeated because I was like, now I don't own any of Blade Box. I could be fired from Lone Survivalist and then just lose my profit share just immediately. And it was just not a good place. So I was like, maybe I can talk to my dad. Maybe he can understand and we can work something out. So I went to get coffee with my dad and I just laid my heart out to him. I was very, very invested in this company that we built together and I thought like I was being cheated. So I told him all this stuff and originally was like, Daniel, that wasn't the agreement we had. We had an agreement and I was like, but I don't remember. I thought I was getting 25% and I was on the brink of tears. Anyway, he basically said no. That was the agreement. And I was very upset. I remember coming home and just thinking the sky is falling, my life is ending, and it was just not a good place for me to be in. And later that week, I got a call from my dad and he was like, I thought about what you said and I decided that I'm going to not give you 25% ownership, but what I am going to do is make sure that you're compensated fairly. So you're going to get a 25% profit share of the company, and I'm going to put in your clause that you can never be fired from Blade Box. No matter if I leave Lone Survival, it's not dependent on Lone Survivalist anymore. So this is part of my company now. It's called Phantom Equity. Now, this made me so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, like he listened. Like I feel excited now, I feel compensated, and it's like my work is being recognized. And I was so happy. And currently I still have this. I can never be fired from Blade Box, but Blade Box can fail. Now that leads to me to the next point, which is Blade Box have encountered so many issues. We chose the wrong company to do our subscription, so people weren't getting billed correctly, and there was tons of stuff that went wrong. But even with all of these struggles, I still make over $10,000 a month profit from Blade Box, and that's just me personally. And that's the story of how I created a $1 million knife company at 19 years old and how that company continues to grow. There continues to be problems, but I'm just really grateful to be able to work for my dad. He's the best dad and the best boss that I could ever ask for. And I've learned so much throughout my journey, and there's so much more to learn. But I would really appreciate it if you guys followed and you come along with this journey. I'm sharing all of the things that have personally helped me, some stories, and I hope you got some good value from this video. So like, follow, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. See you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.